Hello everyone and welcome back to this lecture. Now in this tutorial we'll be covering some of the basic Linux commands, and in order for you to get to know Linux better, the good way would be to start off with learning these basic commands that I will teach you right now. So to start off, we just want to open up our terminal, which is this icon right here. So just click on it. It should open up this terminal, and if you want to, you can enlarge it a little bit so you can see things better. Right here, from this box right here, we will be running all our programs, most of our programs, and we will be running all of the other commands. So you better get used to this, as we will be doing most of our work from here. So the first command I want to show you is pwd, which stands for print working directory. So it basically just prints out the current directory that you are in, which in my case is /root. Now, if we wanted to change directory, we would firstly need to know what subdirectories are in /root. In order to list all the files and all the subdirectories in /root, we can just type here ls, which will show us all of the current subdirectories that are located in the /root directory. As we can see, we have desktop, documents, downloads, music, pictures, public, and many more. By many more, I mean 2 more. So, if you, for example, wanted to list all of the files that are in the /root directory, you would do it with ls-la command. What this does is basically it will print out also these subdirectories, but it will also print out the hidden files and hidden subdirectories. And we can see right here it printed out more files than this command right here. So as you can see, all of these files that start with dot are not being seen in the ls command. So if you want to take a wide view on all of the current files in this /root directory, you can do it with ls-la command. Now also one important command is to clear screen, so you don't see all of this all the time. You can do it with a simple command which basically, just as it says, just clears. So type here clear, and it should remove all of the commands that we ran previously, and it should give us a new and freshly open terminal. For example, let's say you wanted to go to the desktop directory, which is subdirectory of /root. You can do that with a simple 2-letter command, which is basically just cd desktop. This cd stands for change directory, and it will basically just put us in the desktop directory right now. As you can see right here, the terminal is now located in the /desktop directory. If we type here the pwd once again, it will show us that now our current directory is /root/desktop. Now let's say, for example, you wanted to create a file in the desktop directory. You can do that with the simple command, which is touch, and let's say file.txt, for example. And now if we type here ls, which will list all the files in this directory, it will just print out the file.txt. We created that file.txt with this command right here. So basically touch command creates files, and let's say right now we, for example, wanted to remove this file. Now how do we remove that file? We remove it with also a 2-letter command, which is just rm. Stands for remove. So we just type here remove file.txt, and if we type here ls once again, which will list all the files in the directory, we'll see nothing, because the only file that was there was the file that we previously created and then after deleted it. So let's cover that once again. We are currently in the /root/desktop directory, and if we want to create a file, we basically type touch file.txt. Now this doesn't have to be file.txt, it can be anything. .txt, it can just basically be anything. So for example, it doesn't even have to be .txt. So touch anything, and if we type ls once again, we can see there is a file called anything. So let's do it again, let's remove it. We type here rm anything, and if we type ls once again, it won't be there anymore. Now, we covered how to make files right now, but let's say we, for example, wanted to create a subdirectory in this desktop directory. So to make a directory, which is basically just a folder, you want to type the command mkdir, which stands for make directory, and then type here the directory name you want to make. So for example, let's say we want to make directory called Kali. It will, and let's say we list right here the current desktop directory. It will have a subdirectory called Kali that we just created. Now you might notice that the subdirectories are different color than basic files. So let's make our file 1 again, file1.txt, and let's list again. You can see that the file1.txt is white while the subdirectory is blue. So files will be different color than subdirectories. You should know that. Well, it's not that important, but you will get used to it in time. So let's delete the file once again with the rm command. Now to delete the subdirectory, you want to use the same rm command, which is file1, which is, pardon me, Kali. But you will notice that if we want to delete the Kali, it will says cannot remove Kali is a directory. Now, in order for us to delete a directory, we need to add a -r at the end of command. So just type here again rm Kali and just add here -r. And as you can see, the command worked properly, and if we type ls again, it won't be there. There is no Kali directory anymore. So let's clear our screen with the clear command, and right now I just want to tell you before I cut this tutorial right here that the command rm -r is very dangerous. Now you might be asking why. Well, basically I will show you why. For example, let's create a directory called file, for example. Here we can see with the ls command it's right there, and we want to change our current directory into the file directory. We do it like this, and you can see that our current path right now is /desktop/file. We're in the directory that we previously created. So now let's say that we create 3 files right here, file1, touch file2, touch file3. And if we type ls here, we can see that right now we have 3 files right here. Now, why is the rm -r command so dangerous? Well, if you're a root account and you just type here rm -r, pardon me, if you, yes, rm, you will notice that the rm, the star and then -r command deleted everything. So now you might be wondering, so what, we just deleted all 3 files in one command, which basically this star right here is referring to all the files in the subdirectory. So if you type here this command, which is rm star -r, it will delete all of the files in the current directory. So as you can see, we don't have any file left. Now the reason this is so dangerous is because if we go to the root directory and type here the same command, rm star -r, it will basically delete all the files on the Linux system, which will make your Kali Linux machine crash and not work anymore. Now I'm not sure if they updated it and if it asks for some permissions, well, not permissions but confirmation in order to run this command, but we will not test it right here because you will be deleting all of the files in this system. So for this part 1 tutorial, that would be it. We will cover other commands in the part 2 tutorial with the basic Linux commands, and I hope I see you there. Bye. Hello everybody and welcome back to the Linux part 2 tutorial, well, Linux commands part 2 tutorial. Now, as you may see right here, I have 2 terminals open. One, I will just write the commands as we do them, and in the other one I will put them in a text file, so just I will open this commands.txt. You don't have to open this file, this is just for me so I know which commands I covered and which I didn't. And the other one we will just test the commands in this one. So before we begin, I just want to mention the command that we did in the previous video, which is the cd command. Now you now know that it stands for change directory, and basically it just changes the directory to another directory from this terminal. Now, for example, let's say we want to go to the documents directory, we could just type here cd documents. But the question now is, if, for example, if you wanted to go one directory back, how do you do that? Well, there comes the simple command, which also starts with cd, but instead of typing here a directory, you can just here type 2 dots, which will basically lead you one directory back. So if I press enter right here, it will lead me back to the previous directory, to the root directory. As we can see right here, print working directory, we are again in the root, and if we type ls to list the current folders and files in this directory, we will once again see the documents right here. So basically, just wanted to mention that you can change directory with the cd command, and you can also go one directory back. So for example, if you had, let's say, a directory in the documents directory, I just created it with mkdir command. We also covered that in the previous video, stands for make directory. You can see that now in the documents directory we have another directory, which I basically called just directory. And also, let's go to that directory, and you can see that our current path right now is /documents/directory. Now, in order to go back 2 directories, you can just type here 2 times cd and then 2 dots, and then cd and then 2 dots. And now we are going to be back once again in the root directory. So now that we got that out of the way, I'll just type it right here so I know I covered that command, and we will clear the screen for the next command. Now, this one is a simple command. For example, if you wanted to check out on which account are you currently, which most likely you will be on the root account, you can just type here command which basically does what it says. It's who am I. The command basically just asks who is the current user of this terminal, and right now, as we can see, it is root. You can just read it from here. If you don't need to even write this command, you can just read it from this first word right here, which will most likely be root unless you have another account, which we will cover in some of the next videos, how to make another account, which could be useful because we do not want to run all our programs as a root user. It can be dangerous. So in another video we will cover how to make another user, which you could use for some potentially dangerous programs. So now I will just write it right here. This is not really that useful command, but in case you forget, or in case a user is named something differently than root, you can just check here with whoami command. Now there is a command that I used in the previous videos but never really explained what it does, and right now we will cover it. It's an important command, especially if you're running some of the programs or downloading the programs which are not executables, and you, for example, want to make them an executable so you can run them in your terminal. Now, in order to demonstrate this command, I will just go and make folder called programs. As we can see, it is right here, and I will change my directory into that program. Right now, I will basically just create a simple Python program. That simple Python program we will call, well, we can just call program.py. Doesn't really matter. And right here I'll just code a simple addition program. Just give me 1 second. It doesn't matter at the moment what am I doing, but we will be also covering Python later on. For example, enter first number. B will be, for example, enter second number. And C will equal A times B. Now this is simple to understand. We basically ask for an input for two numbers. We're just making an addition and storing it in C. And then we can basically just print that number, that C number, the result. So we'll just type here result equals to, and then plus string from C. I hope this works. It should probably work. So we have here a program called program.py. Now it is a Python program, but you might notice that if we try to run that program, and you do that by typing here dot and then slash and then the name of the program, you will notice that it won't work. It will say permission denied. Now, why is the permission denied? Well, if we use a command, let me just clear a screen right here. If we use a command that we covered previous video, which is ls -la, we can see all of the files in the current directory, also the hidden files and also our program.py. Now, what interests us here is this part right here. Basically, these are just modes that are enabled for this file. R stands for read, W stands for write, and X stands for execute. Now you might notice that in our program.py we don't have an X, which stands for execute, therefore we cannot really execute that program. In order to make that program executable, we want to type here chmod plus X and then the name of the program. Now if I click here enter and type here LSLA again, you can see now that the program changed its color, and not only the color, it also added the X, which stands for, as I said, executable. You can see the difference from here and from here, and that's how you can check if the program is executable or not. So now let's clear the screen. Now if you wanted to, you can run the program. It will ask us enter first number, let's say 3, enter second number 4, and it will say result equals to 12. Now this command is important and you should learn it. Be used to make any program that is not executable and executable. So now that we got that command out of the way, I will just remove this. Well, actually I will leave it right here. Maybe we will use it for another command, such as cat. Let's cover that command right now. Cat, basically, the command cat stands for, well, not stands for, it basically just prints out the contents of the file into our own terminal as an output. So if we type here cat and then the name of our file, for example, if you just type, it will just print out the code that we just typed, as you can see right here. It can be used so you don't really open the file in order to read it like this. You can just print it out in the terminal with cat command and it will just print out all the contents from the file. Now, that is not the main use of this command. Basically, the main use of this command would probably be in some of the bigger files where you just want to find a certain thing in them. Now, in order to demonstrate what I mean, we will combine the cat command with another command called grep. Now, basically, what grep does is if you want to list, for example, a huge file with a bunch of words, and from that huge file you want to put aside all the words that contain, for example, password in them. Now, let me just demonstrate. Maybe it's easier if I demonstrate it. Now we will create in programs file another file which will be called words.txt, and here we will just type here a bunch of words and then 1 2 3 password 1 2 3, then a bunch of words, and for example A B C password X, for example, and then a bunch of other random stuff. Now if we save this file, ctrl-O to save, enter to save under that name, and ctrl-X to close, we can see that right here we have that words.txt file. Now, in order to see the contents of that file, as I said, we can type just cat words.txt and we will see all of those words. Now, here we can basically with our own eyes find all the words that contain password in them. But let's say, for example, you wanted to, let's say, for example, that this file was much bigger with millions and millions of words. You couldn't possibly just go through all of those words and just find by yourself all of those commands, and not commands, all of those words that contain password in them. So what you want to do is combine the cat command with the grep command. How do we do that? Well, basically we just start off the same command, cat words.txt, and then we basically pipe the grep command. How do we pipe? Well, basically this straight line, just type it right here, and then you type here grep, and then the word that you want to be contained in the other words. So, for example, password in our case. Now, what this will do, it will list all the words that contain the word password in them. As we see, it only listed 2 words, which is ABC password X and 123 password 123. So, it is also a very important mix of 2 commands, which you will be using a lot. At least I am using it a lot in my case. So, let's continue with another command, which can be right now echo. Basically, echo, you can just use it to add, for example, a word into another file without opening it. So, for example, we want to add John as a word into file words.txt. So you just type echo John, and then this arrow that points to right, and then words.txt. As you can see, the command worked, and right now if we cat words.txt, it will only be John. Now, you might be asking, where did the other words go? Well, if you use the echo command, it will basically, how do I say that? It will rewrite the entire text file. So from those bunch of words, it basically deleted all of them and just put John in there. Now, if we use another word, let's say echo Jake into words.txt, and we cat once again words.txt in order to see, we can see that John is no longer there, it's only Jake. So, let me just type here the echo command. One more thing you want to know, which I probably should have mentioned at the beginning, and it is really important, is this command right here, apt update, and one second, apt upgrade. Now, this basically is referring to your Kali Linux repositories, and it will basically just check for the updates from there, and in case there are some updates, it will download them, and you can install the updates with the apt upgrade command. Now, you want to run this command as you finish the installation of Kali Linux, but we will be doing that command in a next video, because the apt upgrade command will take, after the installation, I believe about an hour in order to finish, because it will download just a bunch of other files and upgrade them, and I don't even know what not. It will just take a lot of time, that's what I know. So we'll be doing that command at the end. So right now, if you, for example, want to check out the history of all of the commands you typed previously in this current session of terminal, you can just do that with the simple command which says history. And just print us right here all of the commands that I ran before. So, as you can see right here, these are all the commands that we ran before. It's not that useful, but you might need it sometime. I don't use it that much. Next command we want to do, let's say for example you want to copy the program.py file into another directory. So we'll just create another directory in this programs directory. So we'll call it test directory, for example. And now you can see that we have the test directory, which is blue, and the green program.py file, which is an executable. Now, you want to, for example, copy this file into the test directory. We do that with the simple cp command. Well, cp basically stands for copy, and you just type here the file that you want to copy, which in our case is program.py, and then you type here the directory you want to copy it in, and in our case it is test. So just press here enter, and basically, as you can see right now, if we change directory to test, we will have also a program.py there, and they're basically identical. So if we get this program.py in test directory, then we go one directory back and get here a program.py, they're basically identical because we copied them. So let me just put here a cp command. We finish that command. But let's say, for example, you didn't want to copy that file. Let me just delete it from the text directory. You wanted to move it. It is no longer here. You wanted to move it from programs directory into test directory. You do that with mv command, which stands for move program.py, and then the directory where we want to move it, so test in our case. You can see right now, if we type here ls in order to list all the files, we can see that the program.py is no longer here. It is now moved to the test directory. So we type here ls in the test directory, and now it is only here. Now this command can be used for two things: in order to move files from one directory to another directory, and in order to rename files. So for example, if I type here move program.py, and then I don't specify a directory where I want to move it, but I specify another name for the file, so let's say another name.py, which is not a directory, it is a file, it will rename the program.py into another name.py. As we can see right here, there is no program.py, now the program is called another name.py. And if we cat it right here, we can see that it is the same program that we typed before. So it is also important to know that it can be used for two things, which is rename and move, just so you know. And now we can basically, right now we can cover some of the more basic commands, such as man. Now this command basically is used for opening a manual for any other command. So if we type here man cat, it will open us a file which will basically give you all the options available for the cat command. As you can see right here, it can be used for any other command. So basically, if you type here man cp, it will open up a manual for the cp command, where you can see what else you can do with the cp command. As it says right here, copy files and directories. Now, for example, you can type here man history. Now, I don't know if it has, yes, it has the manual for the history. It basically has manual for all the other commands. These manuals are already pre-installed on the Linux. You will have them with the installation of it. So you can just check out if you forget what some command does or something like that. You can just type here man and then grep, and it will basically open you up with a manual, and you can just read right here and use the command. So now that we got that out of the way, you will be using manual a lot in the programs later on, which you do not know how they work. So you will be opening up a lot of manuals in order to find out the command that you need to use in order to run that program. Also, if we, for example, wanted to, let's say, locate some of the files, we, for example, forgot where we saved the file, and we want to locate it, we can do that with a simple command called locate. So let me just try here with another name.py. If, for example, yeah, I don't think it will work like this, I'm not really sure why, but for example, you want to locate every file in the system which has Word in it, you can just type here locate, and you will see that it will print up a bunch of these files, and they all have, in some of the part, they have a word in it. So let's see right here, as you can see, this file has a word in it right here. So Kali minus pass word and then something else. All of these files will have a word in it. So let's say you want to locate everything that has word list. It will also print out all the files that have word list in it. As you can see, word list, word list, word list, then word list.list, and so on and so on. So we covered that command as well. Now this is about it for this tutorial, and in the next one we will cover some of the commands which are more towards the system that you are using. So for example, in order to check some of the system settings, you will be running the commands that I will show you in the next video, such as for example shutdown, PS, uname, restart, reboot, and so on and so on. ifconfig and bunch of those network commands. So you should learn these. You should remember, like, these are some of the more important commands that you will be using all the time. And that's about it for this tutorial. I hope I see you in the next one. Bye. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the part 3 of Linux basic commands. And in this tutorial we will cover some of the commands mostly used in order to communicate with the system. So let me just open the two terminals once again, so I can write the commands in one terminal and execute them in another terminal. We will basically just cover some of the commands for networking, the most known and basic ones, and some of the commands in order to check, for example, the running processes, or check, for example, the version of your headers, and so on and so on. So first of all, let me just nano commands.txt right here, and first command that I want to cover, which is a simple command, and you probably already know what it does, is, for example, shutdown. Now most of you that know this command will know that this command won't really shut down my PC right away. For example, if I click here enter right here, it will say shutdown scheduled for Monday and then the time. I believe this is 1 minute. Yes, it is 1 minute from me typing enter to this command. So in about 50 seconds this Linux machine will shut down. Now we do not want that, since we have other commands to cover, so we will just cancel it with shutdown -C. And right now our machine will not shut down. Now if you want to restart from the terminal, for example, you will type here reboot command. Reboot command, most of you probably expected it to be restart. Well, restart command does not exist in Linux. In order for you to restart the system, you want to type here in terminal reboot. Now don't click enter here, since it will shut down your PC. Well, it will restart it, but automatically. It doesn't have a 1 minute delay as it has with the shutdown command. So we will not run this command. I'm just basically showing you, if you click here enter, it will restart the machine. So let me just type here the commands here. We'll delete it here since we do not want to run it. Now some of the commands that are towards the processes that are running in this machine are, for example, PS, which will give you the processes running in the current terminal that we have open. So this bash will be always open. You do not need to run anything in order for this process to be here. And the PS process is the process that we just ran, as you can see right here. Now this is just the processes that this Linux terminal is running. Now if you want to check all of the processes, you can just, let me just enlarge this terminal for 1 second and type here top. This will open up all of the processes currently running on your Kali Linux machine. Now most of this we don't even start ourselves. This is just a bunch of processes that the Linux itself starts up as it boots. You can also see some of the outputs right here, such as CPU percentage, usage, tasks, how many of them, 2 running, 176 sleeping, available memory, swap memory, and bunch of other options. So right here you can also check who is running the processes. In our case, I believe all the processes will be root, since we don't even have any other account. So all of them will be root. Now that we got that out of the way, in order to close this, you just press here ctrl plus X or Y, and it will just basically close this top command, which shows us the processes in real time. Now you can see that it stopped, so we can just clear here the screen and put this terminal back to its size. Let me just type here ps and top. We covered those 4 for now on. Now another command, which is a really simple command, is uname. So basically this will just give you out the name of your operating system, which in our case is Linux, so it is just uname. Now in order to check out all the options for this command, you can just type here man uname, and it will open up a manual for this command, and you can see things it is possible to do with this command. So for example, a -r, which we used in order to install our headers before, if you remember, well, basically to check our current headers, it will print out the kernel release. The -s will print out, as it says right here, kernel name. -a will print all. So let's try -a, and it will print out the full name. As you can see, Linux Kali, this is our headers version that we downloaded in that image. As I said, it is Debian based, and there are a bunch of other additions to this command. So this is not really that important command. Only in the process of installing the VirtualBox guest editions we used it, so we might be using it from time to time, but it's not that important really. Now the next command that is important, however, is the command where you check out your IP address. Now some of you may know that in Windows, in order for you to check your IP address, you type ipconfig. Well, in Linux it is basically the same command, except the second letter is switched with if. So it basically is ifconfig. And this command will print out all the network interfaces that are currently connected to your Kali Linux machine, and also the IP addresses of those interfaces if they are connected to the internet. So we can see that right now we only have one interface, well basically two, but one is a loopback interface. You will all have this one, and you will probably all have this one as well, which will be named the same, but in case, for example, that you plug in a wireless adapter, you will be given another name for the wireless interface, which can be different for all of you. Now, here we can see our IP address, which will probably be the same for you if you didn't configure it in the network settings. Now, in order for us to change this, I will cover that in the next video, where we changed this IP address to an IP address that basically belongs to our own local network. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, all the other machines in my local network are starting with 192.168.1, and here we have a machine that starts with 10.0.2, and basically those are not same. Those do not belong to the same local network. So we want to make this machine have the IP address that starts with 192.168.1. But we will cover that in the next tutorial. For now on, this is just the command to check out your IP address, and it is very important. You should remember it, as you will be using it extensively. So next command is netstat. Now this is a pretty big command because it has a bunch of options. For example, you want to type here netstat and, for example, -nr. This command right here will basically give you a gateway, as you can see right here, the IP address of the gateway that you can check out. I use it a lot in order to find out what is the IP address of the router on some of the Wi-Fi's that I do not know the IP address of the router. And in this case it is 10.0.2.2, but this is only because we are using the net in order to connect to the internet. Once we configure the network in the next tutorial, we will be having, I believe, 192.168.1.1, as that is my router IP address. So with netstat you can also check out, for example, your current connections, TCP connections, and right now we don't have any TCP connection, as you can see. Let me just check here. Without a, no, it doesn't have, so basically we are not connected anywhere right now, which is good, because we are not even on the internet and we didn't run any program in order to connect somewhere. So we won't be having any connections to the other IP addresses or servers right here. But if you, for example, run some of the programs, run, for example, Tor, or run open Firefox, so let's just open Firefox, it should open up connection, I believe. Let's just open up and wait for it to connect. And it is connected right now. If we want to run the same command, you can see that we are connected to the bunch of IP addresses, different IP addresses, which are basically just the IP addresses of this website. And here we have, you can see that the program name that is making the connection is Firefox. And the program ID is 1669. So if we close this right here, it shouldn't have them anymore. Well, it basically just has them. Oh yes, right here you can see that before we closed it, it was an established connection, and right now we have a time wait state, which basically means we are not connected anymore. So we cannot make communication with that site anymore, since here it was established as we were opening that website, and here as we closed it, there is no connection anymore. I believe this will disappear in a few seconds or minutes, but we won't be waiting for that. Let's just screen the screen and type here netstat as we cover that. Now, there are probably two most important commands that you want to run. Now, most people teach this at the beginning as one of the first commands, but I only taught it right here at the end, because basically one of these commands will take an hour to finish. At least for me, when I install a new Kali Linux machine, it takes about an hour to finish. So first command is apt update, or you can just type here apt get update. What this will do, it will connect to the Linux repositories that you have linked in the sources.list file, and it will check for any updates. Now you can see right here it is connecting to Kali.download, and it will check if there are any current updates right there. Now once that command finishes, you want to go with apt upgrade, and as you can see, this will print out a bunch of new files that need to be upgraded, and it will possibly be the same for you. And if you click here Y, which we for example want to, this will take a lot of time to finish, but you must do it. Now, not a lot of time, but about an hour, maybe 40 minutes, I'm not really sure, it depends. And we won't be waiting, of course, for that to finish. We will just cut to the next tutorial, and for that time I want to show you this simple last command in order to communicate with the terminal and system, which is basically just exit. And maybe you will need to run it twice because it has some processes opened. So if you type here exit, it will basically just close the terminal. Simple as that. Now if you run this command apt upgrade, which you should have, and you should wait for this basically to finish, it might ask you some of the questions along the process of installation of these files, and you basically want to answer yes to all of them. So we won't be waiting for this to finish right now. We will just cut it right here, and I hope I see you in the next tutorial where we will be configuring our IP address in network settings. Hope I see you there, and take care.